Thank you, guys, for ProductTank to calling me for the presentation. And as the topic today is tech debt, I would like to talk about the tech debt and actually more from the, let's say, high-level perspective. But first of all, I will just shortly brief introduce myself. Also, hey, I'm Nick. I'm an IT officially 10 years, but I think I'm geeking out about IT since I was 12. And 7 last years, I usually spent in the role of technical leader or architect. I used to work across many industries, starting from media, gaming. Right now, I'm mostly involved in a fintech and security and a bit of a medical domain. And I specialize in both backend, front-end development, DevOps, cloud engineering. And as is right now, I'm mainly concentrated on doing solution architecture for uplifting. So today's topic. First of all, disclaimer, this is all my opinion and has nothing to do with reality, but I would like to tell you about actually what debt actually is. Is debt even dangerous, actually, for us? And what is technical debt? What is the causes of technical debt? And actually where I would try to pinpoint where usually I see the source of a problem, why it's even existing and why is so much people talking about it and trying to understand and grab the point how to manage it. So debt, I think most of you people here are financially successful and well educated and should know what debt is. But I would just like to align us on these concepts and like have a common perception what debt really is. And from economical standpoint, now let's get away from technical stuff right now. So this is a map from, I think, 2012, so it's kind of old, but that's not the point. And it demonstrates average household debt in percentage of yearly income. Sounds really fancy, but it's actually easy. In these numbers demonstrated how much you own in percentage of your salary on averagely. So taken as a Czech Republic, it's pretty much saying that most of the people here are in debt for 57% of their income. It's actually old data. Now it's closer to 80. The funny thing is, it's actually, and I think it's kind of familiar concept. It's a complex, so it's socio-economical concept, but the more developed country is, the more it is in debt. And actually why? Well, again, I'm not an economist and I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a tech guy, but I'll try to simplify things. The real problem is that we borrow money so we can do stuff right now. And countries are using this, for example, for investing into the development, well, of a state. Let's say we need to build a new highway, so we go into debt. We lend the money, build a highway, and then we pay it. The same thing with businesses. Businesses are commonly lending money to invest into the new, let's say, warehouse that they need to grow the business. They don't have money right now, but they will not have this money unless they're gonna evolve their business. And the same thing with our household. I think it's most of you, or a lot of you, at least have some kind of a mortgage for the house, like a hypothec, because you have your family and you need to provide resources to your family right now, not in 30 years, because in 30 years, your children will be already old. And for example, you need a car to provide some basic comfort to your family. So, and as I was saying, usually the more country is developed, the more it's actually a bit more in depth. Why so? Well, you can imagine that more you developed country, the more actual requirements you have, the more projects you should do, and the more expensive these projects are. So again, this is my vision, and well, I'm a tech guy, but oversimplification, I think, is a really good alternative to the common vision. But what is the price? Well, at some point, we need to pay it, and with interests. And this interests are usually dependent on the riskiness of your debt, meaning like how good you are of a debt payer, and how good you are able to pay, how much you trust it, and how big of a sum you're taking. So, well, is being in debt dangerous? Most of us people actually hating being in debt. We don't like to be own money to someone. It's kind of uncomfortable concept. Well, and the answer is, it definitely could be. the debt could be dangerous for you as a person, for the state. It can actually have a really negative impact. But usually it's either because of the, let's say, pure economic of a state, but most oftenly because we're all humans. We all have desires. Sometimes we lend money for irrational things, and one thing just like right now, instead of actually waiting and properly buying them. Our decisions sometimes are just simply not rational. So it could be dangerous. But debt is just a tool. Well, like a knife on an image. You can just cook a really good soup with it, or you can really hurt yourself badly. And I think my favorite topics about it, or story that I see, actually I saw it on TikTok, don't hate me, please, is that the guy coming into the bank and saying, hey, I need to lend $4,000. Bank, okay, but we need something to insure your debt. Okay, take my car. In a month, this guy returns, and the banker was like, hey, minute, we just checked your profile and looks like you're a multimillionaire. Why did you need a debt for $5,000? And the guy was, how else would I get a parking spot for my car for $12? So that was all funny thing, but let's get back to the technical debt. So what it is? This is official definition from Wikipedia. In software development, technical debt is implied cost of additional rework caused by choosing an easy solution right now. So meaning that we want something now instead of delaying and properly paying for the implementation. But frankly speaking, it's a problem that we all face in our development life, day-to-day basis, both development, production, business, and a company as a whole. We need to find a combination between good, cheap, and fast. All three are impossible, and we need to find a balance. Quite oftenly, we misjudge. Again, oversimplifying things, technical debt, we are not lending money directly, but instead, we lend in effort and time, which is actually also money. So technically, we actually also lend in money in this manner. And at some point, we will need to repay it. So let's talk about the source and the kinds of technical debts. I think this is really famous diagram from, I think, Martin Flower. There is usually two kinds of technical debt. One we should avoid at all costs, and a second one is actually kind of useful. The one we must avoid is reckless. Something we are not even realizing we create in a technical debt, or something we even don't acknowledge we creating in it. And a second one is actually can be quite useful, because we, especially going into the, let's say, startup world or experimental features, when we deliberately making a decision to lend an effort right now, because we don't ensure about the business impact of the releasing, let's say, of this feature. So classical bad sources of a technological debt. We just don't need analysis. Analysis is for weak people. Testing is for losers, because we write our code immediately and absolutely ideally. We need this feature right now, right here, and we don't have time to wait for it. And preferably, we actually need this feature yesterday. We don't need to define our tasks, because developers are going to analyze everything on their own. They're professionals. We have to pivot. That's an interesting one, because as your business pivot, you still have all your legacy behind you. Actually, two really interesting parts. The first one, you don't realize that technical debt exists. Because if you don't realize it, you cannot make conscious decision about going into technical debt or not. You lend in money without even knowing it. It's like having a credit card and not knowing that it's credit, not debit one. And actually, the last one, less obvious, but more obvious for the technical people, is so-called software entropy. That sounds really good. Yeah, software entropy. Let's blame everything on entropy. Who knows what entropy is? It's a level, well, according to the physics, it's a level of, let's say, chaos in a system. Like the level of, the more entropy, the more system is chaotic. The less entropy, the more system is organized. Let's say star is organized system. but as soon as it explodes, the entropy increases, because right now it's just a huge mess. And software have this property of decaying. If you're not actively investing time into maintaining of your software, it will decay. Good sources of technological debt. Any startup starts with technological debt, and actually debt to the investors and a debt to some other friends, family, and fools who lend them money to do this stuff, even though it's going to fail with a percentage of 99. But any startups goes actually with a huge technological debt because they don't have right now resources A, and B, they don't even know if it's worth repaying them. Maybe the startup going to crash, which most probably do. So building your startup with a Netflix grade technology, kind of bad idea. If you're not Netflix and don't have sponsorship of Amazon, asterisk. Low effort on investment on experimental features. Let's say we don't know what this feature gonna mean for business, and we don't want to invest a lot of time to just understand that in 5 months of development, this feature was completely useless. Let's do experiment. Let's cut the corners. But generally, the good source is to mindful approach in a technological debt. You know when to go and what to lend. What is definitely not a technological debt is a mess. Mess is a mess. It's not a debt. Creating mess at single point is hugely unprofessional and reckless decision. Mess is just a mess. It's not a technological debt. It's unprofessionalism, and it's bad decision at any case. But, well, okay, so we're all talking about technological debts, but where actually is the problem? Why are we even so much talking about it? Because it's just a debt. The same thing as we lending money, pretty much, covered by the effort and roadmaps and estimations. Well, and this is my opinion from my experience, the problem is actually not processual one and not with people. The problem actually usually comes from the culture and communication. And I'll explain you. From my perspective, product and business, let's say product development, management, business, can see the evaluate business impacts of some feature. Cool, I'm out of sync. Our Wi-Fi is not working. Kubo? Ale nejsem vidět. Just a second, guys, we have a technical issue. Koho? So guys telling me to tell you some kind of a joke. Compensating for the technical debt he created while not properly preparing for the presentation. So now we need to repay it, and you as a product owner should wait for us, as it usually happens. And more jokes because it's still we repaying this debt. Hey guys, really, I'm not that good of a stand-up comedian. Super. Okay, we are back online in a second. So it's coming. It's coming up. Oh my God! Don't tell me it's not working again. It is. It is. Okay. Awesome. Yay! We're back online. We are back. Okay, so where is the problem? Well, and this is purely my experience and purely my opinion and maybe oversimplification of a thing, but let's say business and product part of our work can easily evaluate business impact of certain things not happening or happening, but they don't see the technical detail. Development can see the technical detail, but not always good at judgment business impact. Because After all, I think it's a common notion that for business, and we are constantly under the pressure of our concurrency, should develop feature yesterday. But acceptable amount of technical depth for the technological people is precisely 0. Well, so what to do? There is some active steps you can do, and there is some passives that should be in place anyway. I'm mostly going to be talking about active steps. So first of all, sort of the communication. Really recognize that you have technological depth. Any pretty much, even a startup actually has a technological depth, and if you're not monitoring it, you're actually making yourself really, well, you're gonna understand it later. Monitor it, pay the interest. I'm gonna talk about the steps a bit more, but passively, actually some common steps can really help in reducing technological depth. Simple things as quality standards, coding standards. Do your team understand what quality means in your company? Do your team align what coding styles are appreciated in your company? Some simple things as DODs, definition of done. Do your team knows when the task is done? Or it's just like, whatever I decided it's done? Automatization for sure. Just stop deploying to the production with a bash script, please. And reviewing a factor. But let's talk about this more ephemeral active step. Communication. This is one of the most important. You need to evaluate the impact of technological depth, and this is only possible in a collaboration between both the business and technology. Bring your team closer to the business. Try to bring tech team closer to the business, and what is contradictorily, product team a bit closer to the technology. Trust your team with the implementation and ask the correct questions when you're evaluating some technological, possibility of depth. Let them propose multiple options of the same solution. Ask them what kind of impact does it mean. Ask them what's going to happen if you implement it now or in 10 days. But make this decision in collaboration. Face the truth. Any project has technological depth, especially the old one or like the obsolete, but startups also has a technological depth. Log it and prioritize it together with your team. Even simple things that you just said on some project, we will do it later. This is already a potential technological depth. Put it in your backlog and prioritize it when you're going to do what later means. Monitor it. There is no single concept how you can actually monitor technological depth. There is no specialized tool for this, but that's no different from a normal task. You can just simply use simple amount like how many tasks for technological depth you have in your backlog. Start with that. And pay the interest. The common practice, especially in a more enterprise environment, just let's allocate 20% of a sprint to resolve technological depths. Awesome, but you don't know how much you have to pay. It should be aligned with the idea how deep you are in a technological depth to properly allocate your resources. And additionally, there is even could be potentially a stop the world events, meaning some kind of maintenance sprint if you're too deep in a depth. But it's really irresponsible to just assign a random number of effort because you don't know what percentages you have to pay. One more thing. There is actually not only technological depth, but there is a full subcategory that we can talk about. It's actually about architecture, build, even the processes. If you own some processes, this is also a depth. If you own some people on your project, this could be a depth too. Summary. So what I would like to at least summarize our presentation today. Technical depth is unavoidable. That's just everywhere. And actually, the more developed the project is, the more older it is, we can explain the higher amount of technological depth, and you need to adjust your implementation to it. Technological depth is not explicitly bad thing, but uncontrollable technological depth is. Technical depth is pretty much the same thing as your common day-to-day task, if you monitor it properly and prioritize it properly. The core issue is more cultural and communicational, is to get together to evaluate impact of certain technological debt to your concrete case. So lending, it's not like the question of completely avoiding generating technological debts. No, it's a question making the decision consciously and then estimating if you can pay the percentages or interest for applying this technological debt. Well, thank you. This is all from me.